Hi, Deborah Callahan here. Today, I'm going to be speaking with one of the most creative and interesting people I've met so far, my friend Mo Regulinski. Welcome, Mo.
Hi, Debbie.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm just going to go ahead and read your bio. Mo Regulinski is a Richmond, Virginia artist healer who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 3. Through her art, she provides a visual narrative on the day-to-day maintenance of a chronic health condition. Mo creates wearable art from her own sanitized diabetes medical disposables. Her Healing Avatar series has been exhibited by the Virginia Museum of Fine Art, Beyond Type 1 Art Basel, the National Institute of Health, VCU Health, the Valentine History Center, the American Diabetes Association, and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Mo also gave a TED Talk in 2017. What people may not know about you is that you're also an exceptionally skilled energy healer, working mainly through the modalities of family constellation systems and Rohan. I personally had the opportunity to participate in both, and I can honestly say that it's some of the most powerful healing work that I've ever done. It's amazing. So let's get started. What strikes me about your story is how, first off, that you recognize that art and diabetes came into your life at the exact same time. And I think about that quote from Napoleon Hill that says, "Within every challenge lies a gift equal to or exceeding the challenge that we're going through." So do you believe that to be true for like everything always, or was that just true in your case, do you think?
I think that really depends on your perspective. So, I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, which was all laughs and giggles and creativity on one side, and then kind of the reality, when is the shoe going to drop on the other side? And so my mom was super creative, but she was hurting 7 children. So there was the play and the work always involved in everything. And at a certain point in my life, I just had to choose which one of those is better for me, the laughter and playfulness or the worry and the kind of anxiety of everything going around. So that was kind of the choice. And I think I love that Napoleon Dynamite quote. That was a great one for you to come up with.
Napoleon Hill.
That's kind of funny to mix that up. But there it is, the laughter, instead of being nervous, we can just sit here and laugh about all of it. It's a choice. And I think at a certain point, you have to make the choice, or you just stay in depression or stay in overwhelm or stay in a difficult place. With the chronic condition, I'm always making that choice. Am I going to be in despair, or am I going to look for the beauty in it?
So did you consciously make that choice as a child? Or do you think your parents facilitated that choice for you?
My mom, even with these 7 kids, always was going to the Y and taking art classes, cake decorating. I did a lot of baking with her. She would have Santa Claus deliver looms, and she was always encouraging creativity in our family. And of the 7 children, 3 of us are artists. It was a nurture thing in our family, along with some of the other difficult stuff that was there. Yeah, it was nurtured. And I think she had a propensity to it. I just took it really seriously. And I've just recently learned that many people with chronic conditions, this is a great way to pretty much cathartically work it out of your system. And that's kind of how the Healing Avatar series came about.
I love the story of how your Regalia series came to be. Could you just quickly walk us through that moment where you decided to sort of change your perspective on your artwork?
Sure. I was teaching teenagers who I love and adore to teach. They're very expressive, very creative. And we would, through a program at the museum, we would take them to New York City. And on the train, my co-instructor started kind of venting about how she never gets to use her artwork because she's always dumping all her creativity into student creativity. And in that moment, I was like, that's what I do too. And so I started designing, it was a wearable art program. If I was making wearable art, what would it be? And I was like, I don't know. But then the question that came to me was, what would all the needles I've jabbed into my body look like if they pointed outward? The first piece started with that. And at that point, there was over 36,000 needles I had shoved in my body. That was about 12 years ago. And I started making a piece using a pneumatic pin nailer with the same gauge needles my mother had to stick in me as a 3-year-old child, which was 24 gauge. So if you look at that now, that's like an embroidery needle. It's a horribly big needle. And I used that gauge pin nails and created a piece that is based in Roman armor, feminized, and I put all these needles sticking out of it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. I kind of had a plan of what it would look like, but the cathartic impact and then the visual impact of it, I was like, I think I need to do more of this. So that's how it started.
Wow. So questioning that for yourself and wondering what that would be like to have the needles facing outward. Could you talk about how wonder has played a role in your life and where it's led you?
Oh, I think I have to give credit to the household I was raised in, because I had a magical mother that loved doing fun things at holidays. I guess if we let ourselves, gives ourselves the time to wonder, growing up, we were kids that were pretty much locked out of the house. Go play we had woods behind our house, and you had to like drink out of the hose and you had to go climb trees. It became a wonderland. So in that, every day we were left to our imagination. There's something about the difficulty of that and the freedom of that I think really builds wonder. From that, I just kept going with it. And I was also raised in the wonder of religion. Like the Catholic Church is very open to mysticism, we don't know what all the answers are. That's something beyond this building. And so that was wonder too. So there was a lot of wonder going along, a lot of imagination and make-believe and understanding and belief that all kind of culminated into my practice of art, my practice of healing, and my practice of living. Like, just see it from a different perspective, because if you look at it from the perspective of the doctors, it's harsh and it's hurts. Like you get jabbed with needles or cut open, or, every time until I was 36 years old, when I went to the doctor, I would cry. The doctor I still see now said, "Why are you crying?" No one had ever asked me that before. "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because I just don't do this well enough."
Wow.
And he said back to me, which was actually the first affirmation I ever got, "Look at you, you're doing great." And then I stopped crying, because no one had ever said that to me. I had been living with type 1 diabetes for 33 years. It was always like, you got to do this, you got to do this. This doesn't look right. What did you eat at this number? And it's like, I'm just living my life.
So when were you able to feel as though you were doing great at that moment?
That changes daily. What I noticed, I was just on a long trip where I wasn't making art or doing any of my healing work. And I came home and my blood sugars bounced significantly. And what I understand now is that through art and the healing work I do, it brings a lot of joy in my life. And joy literally balances what my body is doing. Joy is like a medicine that is more powerful than anything I can inject in my body, anything that somebody else can tell me about. When I'm in joy, everything is in balance. And so the challenge is to find as much joy as you can.
That's so amazing, because I've been listening to a lot of symposiums on insulin resistance and things like that. And I know that people who don't have diabetes are wearing continuous glucose monitors, and they can see how stress and emotion affects their blood sugar. So I think you're right on point with that. That's amazing.
And I have that constant glucose meter, and it shows up instantly for me. And sometimes that's even stressful. Sometimes it's like, this is too much information and I just don't want to know. No. And I have a piece in my Blue Wing series that addresses that. I do a piece with the graphs of a constant glucose meter. And then I have another piece called Fantasy, which is an undulating line, which would be just, a smooth blood sugar. It goes up a little when you eat, it comes back down because your body's working. And then sprinkled in on top of that graph are all these jewels, pearls and crystals and amethyst. And I put in all those little jewels of life that just get to be jewels instead of a negotiation. Well, how much insulin do I have to take if I'm going to walk 3 miles this afternoon? And what do I need to eat? Da, 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 da. And it's always a negotiation. That series, the beginning of the series, I used the medical disposables to show how much of an impact this stuff is on your body. There's so many medical disposables that I, number one, didn't want to put, I wanted to recycle them some way. And so I started using them in my art, and it shows how much of this you have to put, one person puts in their body. Just think of the 150,000 we have in this country use these materials. And then it turned into, why am I focusing on that part? So to your question before, how do you choose beauty? Right towards the end, I'm like, I'm going to literally make something I want to see. So now it's shifted from what is to what I desire. And then the next series that I'm just starting now is about releasing all of that stuff. Every series I do ends in freedom, because I think for anybody with any chronic condition, I still believe there'll be a cure. I still believe one day I won't have to do all this. And I have to hold that belief, because I don't like thinking about this is your life and this is what you have to do forever. It sounds like a dark voice in my head. And it's like, okay, I'll do it today. Okay, I'll do it today.
Right.
And really, it's a day by day thing.
So I'm curious, what is some of the feedback that you've received about your art from other people living with chronic health conditions?
Gosh, there's been some remarkable things that have happened. So I had a student who was 14 when she came to my class, and we went over to see the studio school exhibit of the faculty show at the VMFA. And I had a piece called Regalia Wings, and it was wings made out of needles and blood testing, syringes and blood testing tabs. And I didn't know her history. So we go over and we see it. And we then send the kids into the museum to do their work, to go look at pieces. What they were to make was based on a piece in the museum. And her mother called us out saying, why did you leave my daughter alone in the museum? And we didn't know she had a heart condition that she was on the list to have a transplant. So she's a dynamite. She had a heart transplant at 16. She went to fashion school, and she was focusing, her senior project was on scars, the scarring on your body. She now has a 6-month-old baby. She married, had a baby, and she is living life like there's forever. She's so into the beauty of life that I think in that possibility, in just seeing that piece, she's like, what? What is this? Another piece I had in an exhibition, the first piece I was telling you about, a young lady that was 15 came up to me, and 15-year-olds, really, kids don't talk about this stuff, really. I hid it my whole life. She says to me, I have diabetes and I'm not feeling very well right now. And it was just being able to see that somebody else is dealing with this too. And we talk, and I think just knowing somebody else is out there that totally gets it brings understanding and comfort. A lot of people are very isolated in their chronic condition. The third one that I'll mention is I had a show during COVID. Not a whole lot of people came, but I still wanted to put it up. And I had some of the Blue Wings and some of the Regalia series in this exhibition. And the director of the exhibition space said, is this all your stuff? Like, did you use all this? And I said, yeah, this is all one person. And she says, oh my gosh, my sister's always complaining she can't do stuff because of her diabetes. And when I see this, I have so much more understanding. People have spoken to me directly about the impact on them. It kind of shifts them from, oh my goodness, this is a difficult situation, to, oh, there's possibility here, to other people are going through this too, and I don't feel so alone, to, oh, I understand other people in my life.
That's so powerful. And I'm always a big believer that art heals. I think that art or music, is extremely healing for people who receive it. also. And that makes me think of Brene Brown, who says that unexpressed creativity is malignant. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. For me, anyway.
For me also, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I'm curious, like what you would say to someone who believes that they don't have a creative brain or they don't have a creative bone in their body. Like, how would you encourage them to live a more creative life?
Well, I think to say I don't have a creative bone in my body is being judgmental. It's
Well,
judging yourself harshly.
but people do.
Because yes, we
Yeah.
do. We got to stop it because it causes stress, which causes difficult health.
Right.
I think we have to broaden the definition of creativity because I think people who think of creativity think of Picasso and Van Gogh and masters. But I know so many people that appoint their house beautifully.
Yes.
Or garden beautifully. Or, shoot a bow and arrow beautifully.
Okay.
There are certain aspects, if you just let the feeling of joy into your body as you're doing something, or saying to yourself, I love doing this, then you're doing something creatively instead of getting something done.
Yeah, maybe it's just being present and mindful in whatever you're doing. That makes it creative,
So.
right?
Yeah.
So interesting. So speaking of health, how did you discover that you were a healer?
Well, it's kind of funny. As a kid, again, raised in the Catholic Church, there's a certain protocol in the way that celebration is held. So I believed in Santa Claus, I believed in the Easter Bunny, and I believed in Jesus the healer. They were all people in my cadre of, I really like those people and I want to meet them. So I always believed in that healer. Like that is my vision of Christ. I believed fervently that would show up in my life. And it was the only one that didn't kind of fade. I always believed in it. When I got older, I knew that there was something about me that was different because I wasn't suffering terribly. Now, in my 20s, I did go blind in my left eye, had to have 3 years of laser surgery. But through my belief in healing, the doctor said, we can stop the progression, but we can't improve your vision. We can't heal. Well, they didn't say we can't heal this. We don't expect that there will be an improvement in your vision. My belief, I sat down and I meditated prayerfully, brought my vision back from 2200 to 2030 to 2050. So that was a vast improvement. And that took probably another couple years to do. I just believed that they were wrong, that this would not cause me to go blind. And then I really straightened up my act because I had 2 kids and I had to straighten up a little bit. So around that time that the doctor said I did great, I thought, I'm going to investigate a way that I can share this with people. I read Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light, and then I took healing touch classes and I became a healing touch practitioner. And then from there, I loved that teacher. So I went to Delphi University and took the Rohan series of classes. So I started wanting to put a little structure around what I knew how to do so I could share it with people. And that was out of gratitude because I knew that other people suffered a lot more than I was with this. And I thought there has to be something to what I'm doing that I should start sharing. And that's how it all started.
And you're incredible at what you do.
It's through me. It's not me. It's that belief.
It's like so subtle in what you do, but it's so powerful. It's really amazing. So what would be your tips for anyone recently diagnosed with an incurable disease on how to live life fully?
Yeah, go for your joy. And I think so many authors have touched on that. Like you got to do what you got to do. I believe that we're all here to work together. It's a collaborative system here on planet Earth. And the doctors do have wisdom. Like I cannot to this day live without my insulin. I expect I will at some point. But until that understanding comes to fruition, I get the lightning bolt or I get, the cure from the science team. I have to do what I have to do in the medical system. But then my belief system is a little more magical. It's a little more trusting in the source of life. It's saying no to things that cause me stress and anxiety. And it's stepping forward in what brings me joy, what I can share. Because in sharing the healing work, the beauty is that I get as much benefit from it as anybody doing it. Like people will say, oh, doesn't that make you tired? tired. And the only reason healing work would make you tired is if it's from your ego. If it's from your heart, if it's from channeling divine source with other people, we're strong together. I'd say if you were newly diagnosed, you can find all different kinds of practices that open up that wonder, as we were talking about, that will just bring joy, and kind of like Tai Chi is a meditation. I find artwork a meditation. It's when your mind stops worrying and you just do what's in front of you. So finding a practice along with having to maintain all that stuff you have to maintain.
Beautiful. So what's next for you?
I'm starting a new series. My ambition is to get out and talk about this more, because what I really see is that this belief aspect is the missing link in our healthcare system. So I'd like to talk about it more, because we have the mind, we know what we're supposed to do. We do those things. There are brilliant doctors out there. We have the body, which we can manipulate. We can put chemicals into, we can put drugs in there and do operations. And then there's the spirit, or the belief system, that has been called the placebo effect in medicine, which is patient driven. I want to inspire people to claim that they have power and that what they believe makes a difference, and not turn over everything to the medical system, that we have power to believe and change our chemistry. I'd like to gather groups of people so that belief gets stronger and stronger.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see where that all goes, because I definitely know that you'll make that happen. This has been such a treat. If people want to know more about you, your work, or how they can work with you, where can they find that information?
I have my website, Regulinski.com. And if you want to get on the newsletter, you can just text 22828 as the phone number, and then put in constellations as your message. And then it'll prompt you to a site on my email newsletter. So that's probably the easiest way.
Perfect. And I'll put all that information in the note, along with your TED Talk, which I encourage people to watch also.
Oh.
Thank you so much, Mo. I really appreciate you chatting with me today. I think this talk is going to touch a lot of people's hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. It was a fabulous opportunity, and you asked brilliant questions.
Thank you.